Welcome to TMG Tonight. Our guests this evening are Tristan Griffith and Shaun Forde, co-founders and managing partners of Albion House, a real estate investment firm focused on multifamily properties. Please join me in welcoming Tristan Griffith and Shaun Forde.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Hello.
So, how was the trip in from Utah?
The flight was good.
Good.
Yes, it's good to be here. It's a little more rainy here. I'm from southern Utah, and it's really sunny there right now. So
it
enjoying
is.
some rain of the great Northwest.
Welcome to overcast and rainy Portland, Vancouver.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, so let's talk a little bit about how you two got started and how the Albion House came to be.
Yeah, so I got started in 2012, straight out of grad school. It was kind of post, kind of immediate recovery after the recession, looking for a job. Did my master's in finance. And my dad's cousin was working at a REIT that was specialized in grocery and neighborhood shopping centers. He said, come on down, I'd like you to meet some of the guys that work here. Do you have any interest in real estate or know anything about it? And at the time, other than just kind of knowing high-level commercial real estate investments as an asset class, I didn't really know the ins and outs. But got down there, kind of learned the ropes, met the people, struck an interest with the asset class, and it was a good opportunity. So not really knowing much, I just dove right in.
And you had no experience in real estate prior to that?
No, I thought I was going to do debt and equity research.
Yeah.
But this, real estate really stuck out to me in that you could acquire an asset and have full control over that asset with relatively little equity compared to publicly traded companies,
Right.
where you'd require tens, hundreds of $1 million to have any sort of influence in the operation. But for $2 million, you could control a 50-unit property and a bunch of really good markets throughout the country. And that was really appealing to me, that you weren't just analyzing the numbers and the work and performance of other people. You were actually engaged making the decision. It gave you an opportunity to get more engaged and make the decisions.
And how did you meet Shaun?
Yeah, it's funny. We ended up working for the same company, and the position that I was hired for became available because Tristan was moving departments. So I actually backfilled him in the acquisition underwriting department. The third interview that I had with the company was actually with Tristan. It was a quick 30-minute interview. I think they kind of already knew that they were going to hire me. We ended up talking for about 2 hours after that, just talking about the market, talking about real estate, talking about our shared interests, with finance. And so I started working there in 2013. And it wasn't very long after that we kind of started talking about wanting to invest together and kind of starting something. So our friendship started pretty quickly.
Yeah, it wasn't even an interview. It was scheduled as an interview, but immediately it was just 2 hours of hanging out.
Right.
And you could tell there was a really good connection there.
Common interest, and so how did the Albion House, and where did you get that name, the Albion House? How did that come to be?
Yeah, so there's a beautiful place in the mountains above Salt Lake City called the Albion Basin that we have both been to. And we wanted a unique name, something that kind of stuck out. So we selected Albion. And then we added the house for a couple of reasons. We wanted a kind of a unique way to say company or group or something like that. And so we kind of thought of an investment house, a publisher's clearinghouse type thing. Plus house just has a natural real estate connotation. So we thought that it had a good ring to it.
Yeah.
And so what was your first purchase, and how did you find it, and how did the transaction go?
My very first purchase was a shopping center in Lakewood, Colorado, and that was when we were working for the REIT, and then I did a bunch of acquisitions there. So that was really good to be able to kind of pad my transactions experience with 35 or 40 acquisitions, kind of totaling over $700 million of real estate.
What experience.
Yeah, so it was really good experience in the shopping center business. But when we moved to multifamily, when we started this firm, we had to learn the nuances of multifamily. The real estate fundamentals are real estate fundamentals, and once you kind of know those, it's easy to fill in the gap. Well, it's theoretically, I guess, easy to fill in the gaps, but you really have to go and learn the nuances of multifamily, how the deals trade, who the players are, what the capital markets are like for their, what the different risk profiles and opportunities look like. So we spent a lot of time researching, getting familiar with the property type for a number of reasons, mostly risk management. And our first acquisition in the multifamily space was St. John's at the end of 2019. We closed almost exactly a year ago.
How did you do the research on multifamily? I mean, we all, we get lots of information, coming from, I'm via emails and publications, but how did you really drill down to say, okay, the multifamily is our asset. This is what we want to do. How did you do that?
I don't want to say trial and error, but really it's you have to rely on the expertise of others. When you're entering a new asset class, you have to say, okay, we know that we don't know everything here. And your network is everything, whether it's broker relationships, debt relationships, property management relationships. You can learn from the experience of others. And then there's really no better way to learn than to just simply do it. We just started underwriting deals. And when you start to underwrite a deal, you see, okay, these are the main levers that really make multifamily work. And it's different than office, and it's different than retail. But also, one thing we like about real estate is it's not rocket science. It's cash flows, right?
And it's numbers.
It's numbers, and it
be able to calculate it out. And
Yeah, real estate financial modeling, it can actually get extremely complex, especially when you start dealing with distribution structures, deals, partnership structures. But yeah, I think we had this really good framework and this really good foundation for real estate investing coming from the institutional side. And then it was really, a little bit of trial and error, talking to our network, filling in those gaps. But we took the approach of kind of the cooking show, a professional chef on a cooking show where you have all of the ingredients measured out. So they make like cooking an incredible dish look super easy because it's like
just dump it all in. It's all pre-measured. Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time laying that foundation when we were getting into multifamily. We were like, okay, let's build our relationship with the brokers because we're going to need the insights. We're going to need to develop that trust. We're going to need to be able to see deals, build strong enough relationship that we were seeing the opportunities. We needed an attorney that specialized in multifamily transactions. We needed to find the right title agency. So we spent a lot of time building that foundation and finding all of those players. I mean, what we're doing is building a team of experts, and we want a really high quality, high functioning team. So we spent months just getting that information, making those relationships, talking to those people, talking to the way that we were financing deals in the institutional space was very different than the way we were financing deals in the multifamily space. And then the deal structuring was very different. We were going from a REIT model to a direct real estate investment, private placement, equity syndication model. So fortunately, we had friends in the business that had been in that space, that had been in the multifamily space, and they were good mentors and kind of sounding boards. And it was 18 months of that.
And you both have degrees in finance too, is that right? Yeah. Well, I mean that certainly gives you a leg up, right? And so the St. John's Park property. So you built your team, and then you obviously put an offer in on the property, and you got your team, everybody doing their part, right? Mm-hmm. And so, how did that transaction go? Did it go like you thought it would? Was there some hiccups? Our investors, especially ones starting out, they want to hear those things so that they could say, "Wow, we need to watch out for that."
A lot of times when you hear of somebody who closes a deal, they'll refer to it as, I drug the deal across the finish line. I drug it across the closing line. And that is absolutely true. Yeah. I think even before we put in the offer, we found that we didn't know what we didn't know. And so we would encounter a roadblock, and then we would figure it out. And then we'd move to the next one, and then we would have to figure that one out. And that didn't stop. I would say that accelerated once we went under contract on the property. So there were certainly some challenges, but at that point we knew that, okay, we've solved every issue to this point. What's the next challenge? Okay, we'll solve that. Right. And then the next day we would have the next one. But Tristan will tell you, he probably has some PTSD from those final days of closing, where we really literally felt like we had to drag that thing across the line.
Yeah. I'll add that there's a saying, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And with all of our research, we really had a good map, and we knew the path, but walking it was very different, because like he said, you prepare and you anticipate, but something's going to happen that maybe you didn't consider, and you got to be quick on your feet and you got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the way that you put your team together and you did that research, that has to have helped, because especially when you have to drag something across the finish line to do it, if you hadn't built your team or you didn't have your resources, that's tough to do on your own. To actually get it to close.
No, that's a great point. You can't do it on your own, right? Like you just there's too much going on. There are too many different processes, procedures, things that need to get done, that you can't do it on your own. You need a really good partner. We've got an excellent partnership where we work really well together. We strategize really well together. We're each other's sounding boards, but you also need to assemble that team of experts, and you gotta, you can't cut corners. You gotta really find the good players, trust them to do their job. But it takes a team. You can't do it on your own.
So let's talk about your investment strategy, because you're buying properties that are a bit older, that need some updating, and you're doing renovations. So can you talk about, one, how you came up with that strategy and why you did, and then how has that worked so far?
Yeah, and again, our strategy is always evolving. We love to talk deals. That's how we got this started. Is we sat around in the break room and we talked deals, and so because of that, we're always learning new things. So we like to say that we're opportunistic, but that we're also very focused. We've found kind of a niche that works for us, but it's always evolving.
We decided that we wanted to go with multifamily from a risk management perspective. We have a saying between the two of us that, at least in our lifetimes, we don't believe that technology will ever disrupt the fundamental need for human shelter. And then we take that a step further and we say, you need to house the people and you need to house the robots. So industrial is also a good space to be in.
Right.
But we needed to manage risk, and we knew that if you're buying a shopping center and you've got an anchor and some B shop space, maybe 10 units, if you lose any one of those tenants, that's a significant portion of your income, especially an anchor, right? Which could be
half or more. Right.
Exactly. And then if you do lose them, you have to re-tenant them, which is extremely expensive. I mean, it could cost you $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 to backfill a B shop space, or millions of dollars to backfill an anchor space. So when we were looking at multifamily, we saw, okay, you have shorter term leases, 12-month leases, which gives you an opportunity to mark rent to market pretty regularly, especially if you get a good move for it. Now that can bite both ways a little bit if the market moves against you. But hopefully that's not going to happen, unless you have a situation like COVID or you haven't done
Which
good
who
market
could have
selection.
thought, right? I mean, pandemic, who would have thought that would ever happen?
I will say in our like kind of best, middle, and worst case scenario underwriting models, the pandemic assumption was not one that was underwritten. we did not underwrite a once in a century pandemic. But so when you're re-tenanting multifamily, it's going to cost you a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, and you have really high demand, generally really high occupancy, and a constant opportunity to mark to market. Whereas in retail, industrial, or office, you've got really high re-tenanting packages or tenant improvement packages, and a much larger portion of your income if you all of a sudden see some rollover. So at a foundation, it was risk management.
And so the part about the renovations, and so I'm sure you factored all that in when you with St. John, so you knew what that cost was going to be, and you knew how you wanted that to play out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that, and it's been just almost exactly 1 year, I guess, right? Since you purchased it.
Pretty close.
So has that pandemic, if you put the pandemic aside, has the renovations went like you thought they would? Did it follow the model, or not quite?
Yeah, I mean, that's really another interesting point about our strategy is that we know that we have to add value to these assets. We select good markets, we hope that the economy is strong, and those things will help any asset do well, but we don't want to just ride the wave of any asset. We know that we need to find something that's either been mismanaged or that has some value that we can add to it. And that's why we've selected, assets that need renovations. I think that they actually have gone pretty much according to plan. 90% to plan, we'll say.
Well, that's still, in the big scheme of things, 90% is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you learn that you don't want to over improve certain properties, or you don't want to spend money on certain renovations that aren't going to get that return. But with our finance background, we know how to calculate those returns of, okay, is it worth it to spend this money? What is the return you're going to get? And we've been pretty pleasantly surprised.
We will be right back with more to come from Tristan and Shaun.
Really? 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 Hi. Yeah.
Homeworks, installs, repairs, routine improvement. We keep your home working.
Here at AMS, we've been successfully managing your communities for over 30 years, and in that time, we've seen pretty much everything.
No sidewalk chalk.
At AMS, we know association management. It's literally in our name. Let us handle the pains, management, financials, and so much more for your association community. Contact us today to get started.
So let's talk about how you do find a good investment opportunity, right? Because, there's, I see a lot of information come, across my desk too, different properties, memorandums, properties that are for sale. And so how do you find a good investment opportunity? And then what do you do? Because the market, not too many really good deals are out there, right?
Yeah, so because we are a small shop with just the two of us, we really have to rely on our network to help us find those opportunities. Otherwise, it can be like a little overwhelming. Like, where do I start? Who do I call? So, and in the multifamily space, the relationships with the brokerage community is really important. That's where a lot of the deals are being traded. I don't see as many off-market deals in multifamily as we did in retail. So we're just constantly building our relationships with brokers, building our relationships with property managers, contractors. Contractors are a great source of, hey, I've been working on this project for this guy, he's considering selling, and they also have like a wealth of information about this is what this property needs, or there's an opportunity here. So talking to the contractors is really helpful. And then you can go the unsolicited route. You see a property, you're like, oh, I've got a vision for this, and I can feel like we can make this change or make this improvement, or there's an opportunity here. So you find a leasing sign, or you call the management company, try to get a hold of the owner, get a CoStar report, get the true owner contact information, and you can go the unsolicited route. But have
you done that? And you've made a few calls? And
yeah, absolutely. Now we haven't sourced deals yet that way, and we are happy to work with the brokerage community because so much trades through them that you want to let those guys know, I'm not trying to go around you. I want to work with you. You guys are the market maker, and you provide a really good service. So it's there are all those avenues, but we found the most success by keeping in front of the brokers and letting them know that you're a buyer, you're a closer, you can get it done, you're going to do what you say, and then I think that you start getting early looks, and that's really where you find the opportunities, when you can either get off market, and the definition of off market I think is a little fuzzy, but really getting an early look so that you can get that offer in maybe before it gets really competitive.
Somebody else, right?
Yeah, we found that really you just have to be active market participants. And that means a lot of different things. It means just staying in contact with the brokers. Even if you're not in acquisition mode right now, you have to let them know, hey, we're looking to buy in 6 to 9 months. Keep them informed in what your plans are. And then be active in underwriting deals and taking serious looks at deals. Once you get back into acquisition mode, the deals that are currently on the market are probably not the ones you're going to buy. But you have to go and underwrite it and take a serious look, and maybe it is. Right. Knowing that, okay, this is going to lead to my next look, and that's going to lead to your next look. And if you're talking to the contractors, talking to the brokers, just being active in the market, you don't know where that next deal is going to come from, but you're more likely to see it if you're active.
And I'll add one piece to that real quickly. When we see those deals, and like you said, the deals that are on the market right now might not be, or likely not the deals that you're going to buy. It's going to be maybe the next round or the next small inventory cycle. But we always try to seriously underwrite those deals and give really good feedback to the brokers to let them know how we're looking at it. And that creates a really good dialogue where you're talking deals, and that's what's fun. And that's how you build that relationship. We're always trying to give good, thoughtful feedback and to provide kind of a service to the brokers, say, hey, this is how we're looking at it. These are our thoughts, so that they can get our perspective or a different market perspective.
So when you're working with a broker, do you talk to them about the parameters that you want to stay within, whether it be price or your strategy or the number of units or location? Do you put it in parameters at all, or is it just wide open? Yeah,
we'll put it in parameters. It's funny, So when we worked at the REIT, or if you go to our website, you always see acquisition criteria, and there's a list of this is what we'll buy, but we'll look, that is just like kind of a guideline. We will buy outside of that criteria. We want good opportunities, right? So we communicate that. We tell them what we're looking for, so then the brokers start to get a really good idea of what deal will work for us, so that when they see it, they're like, oh, let's call Tristan, let's call Albion House, let's call Shaun. So we communicate that, but with kind of a sidecar or an add-on where we're like, but we will look at anything. Right. So we want, if you see something that's a good opportunity, we'll underwrite it. We want to see the deal.
Right. Well, I think too, you never know where those deals are going to come from, as in what type of, owner, what situation they're in, what location they're in. And, we've had clients in the past that we manage for now. And I can think of one here just recently that, they passed on a property. They were from California. They passed on a property that was in Gresham area, East County. Mm-hmm. And, it was just because they didn't know enough about it. Yeah. And there's some great things going on there. And they just didn't know enough about the area, and they didn't take the time. And then it got scooped up really quickly, and it was a good property. Yeah, it was an awesome property. It had good bones, great location. Rents could have been increased, and so it was an interesting situation. So
yeah, you don't want to write off a deal before giving it its real due. Because every deal is different, and we've found that we no longer try to make a deal fit into a very strict model or very strict parameters. We started out that way. We built a model and said, okay, this is how we're going to look at a deal. And then we found a value add deal that didn't really fit the model, and we realized then we had to be flexible enough and not just say, nope, that's not our deal. Okay, maybe this is a deal where renovating units doesn't make sense, or maybe this is a deal where doing a whole bunch of deferred maintenance does make sense. You have to be flexible enough and make the deal work, because it's not like there's an unlimited number of deals out there. When something comes available, you want to, maybe it's your deal, maybe it's not, but you want to make sure that you at least give it its time.
So have you had a situation where you really overanalyzed a deal, like 101 ways it could go sideways, and then you had to go, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Have you had that happen?
Every single deal. It's like every single deal. It's the paralysis by analysis, yes, or analysis paralysis. Yes. And the good thing is that it's fun. It's a little bit. It is fun to sit there and just dissect the deal and talk about it and look under every rock, kind of shake every tree. And we find a benefit in it, in that we'll model the deal, and then I'll do the initial underwriting, and then we get on the phone and I walk Shaun through the underwriting, and then we start pulling all the levers, turning all the knobs. What happens if we do this, or what happens if rents are off by this percentage, or what if we need to just pour a boatload of capital into it. And when we do that, you start to see the range in which that property may land. So the one thing that we know when we're modeling a property is that's a static analysis. It's not a dynamic analysis. So that is how you think it's going to go from this point on. In actuality, when you start managing it, then it becomes dynamic, and then you have real world variables that come into play. So we try to simulate that through a series of underwriting scenarios, or a series of potential outcomes, and then you start to know, okay, this deal is a 14 investor levered IRR to an 18 investor levered IRR, and you get a really good idea of what that range is. Is that a wide range? Are you could potentially fall to a 10? Are you going to need to put $1.5 million into this thing for a new roof and it craters? Right. So we do that, and eventually we have to say, okay, we've done it enough. But what it gives us is a really good idea of where this deal is likely to fall, and it gives us confidence.
We've convinced ourselves that overanalyzing things is actually a positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming from two finance guys.
We're going to analyze it every which way, so we use it to our advantage.
Right. So you must have built some sort of a technology spreadsheet, something that covers all of that you're plugging your numbers into, that maybe you've created?
We're a little bit of Excel nerds.
I would say, yes.
We have used softwares. Argus is obviously the very common software, but we've decided that to be flexible and in our space, just building a very dynamic Excel model has been the most beneficial for us. But to us, real estate is cash flows, and it's numbers, and it's on a spreadsheet to a certain point, and then you have to get out of the spreadsheet at some point and say, okay, this isn't just numbers. It's actually a physical building with real people living in it, and it is more dynamic than that. But for us, we spend a fair amount of time in the numbers.
Yeah, and that model's always evolving. Every new deal, and that's the flexibility of our model, is every new deal that we underwrite, it seems like every new deal that we underwrite, we save a new version of the model because we've added a bit of flexibility to it to account for this that maybe we hadn't considered before. So it's constantly evolving. It's a bit almost like an art project, really, right? It's like we take great pride in our model and how it works and how it looks, and it's never done.
Right. Well, and really it shouldn't be done, right? Because the market's ever changing, expectations, yields, all that is ever changing. Yeah. So let's talk about locations. So you're looking for deals in lots of different areas, correct? I mean, you're in Oregon, you're looking in Washington, you said Colorado, and so can you kind of talk to us a little bit about the market and what you've discovered in other areas?
Yeah, market selection is really important to us. We feel that having good demographics, good population growth, good incomes. We look at poverty, crime, education, all these different things on a macro level for an entire MSA, for the Phoenix MSA, for Denver. And then once we find a market that we think is moving in the right direction, then we'll narrow that down to a sub-market. There's good properties and there's bad properties in any market. Right. But if you find a deal or if you find a market that is positive overall, that's somewhere you want to look. But then on every deal, I mean, getting back to the overanalyzing, we don't feel that it's overanalyzing, but we look at all those different metrics, and then we want to see what are the local amenities around the area. Is it walkable? Does it have a grocery store within a quarter mile? What schools are there?
There's a lot of markets and sub-markets, too, especially when you're talking, Washington, Oregon, Idaho. I don't know, are you down in the southern states, Arizona at all, or?
So yeah, actually, so our when we started out, the strategy was we were going to do Utah and Oregon, kind of Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Idaho, because we knew those markets really well. We lived in Salt Lake City, both of us, for a long time. And we knew that we wanted to do acquisitions on the West because we saw a lot of growth. A lot of really good growth markets out West. And actually, we were getting ready to enter Phoenix. that was going to be the next market that we were really going to learn and become experts in. And we were in Phoenix on February 20th.
Oh.
And we were looking at a hotel conversion. And we were taking a very serious look at this hotel conversion that had some zoning risk to it. It was pretty hairy, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to finance this deal. We were talking to a bunch of different mortgage brokers, trying to find creative ways that we were going to work around this zoning risk that wasn't going to be solved until, unfortunately, after we had done DD and closed. And yeah, we flew home on February 20th or 21st. And then the world ended. The bottom fell out. So then when that happened, we moved to acquisition, the debt markets, liquidity was scarce, and everybody was scared, and there was a lot of fear and uncertainty, and lenders, the bridge markets closed up. A lot of the debt markets had a liquidity problem. The agencies were still there, but we go for bridge debt in our typical value add. So then we came back and said, okay, we're focusing on asset management, managing through the crisis. And as our acquisitions initiative has returned because of the limitations of the pandemic, right now we are mostly staying local, but we're starting to look at Boise. We really like Boise. We start looking back at Salt Lake, St. George. We're back in that, okay, where do we want to put our shoots?
Right. Well, as you're talking through in your chat, because you are finance guys, and I think that not a lot of our audience has the expertise that you do on the finance side. So why don't you explain a little bit about bridge loans and how they work?
Yeah, so you've got a bunch of different debt products in the market that are available to you, depending on and different loan types are meant for different types of asset plans. If you're doing a kind of a core, or what we would consider like a stabilized buying a stream of income acquisition, the agencies, your Freddie, Fannie, your government-sponsored agencies are a really good source of low interest, easily attained long-term debt products. Now, if you're going more towards value add and you need to finance your capital improvements, your renovations, you want to finance that through the loan, because when you don't finance that through the loan, when you finance that through equity, your returns fall quickly.
They do.
Real estate benefits greatly from leverage. You get to use leverage to your advantage, more so than other asset classes. So with bridge loans, that allows you to highly lever your product, and you feel comfortable doing that in most cases because you have an opportunity to create value. So what might be an 80% LTV at acquisition is going to be 60% LTV in 12 to 18 months after you've executed your asset plan, and it lets you finance all of your CapEx through that loan.
And that's what you did with St. John's,
that's
correct?
What we did with St.
Yes.
John's. Yeah. Yes. But with the pandemic, you've seen, everyone's talking about interest rates. Now's a great time to refinance, or now's a great time to acquire because interest rates are so low. Interest rates are really good for agency products that benchmark the Treasury. But bridge loans actually, because the supply of that capital dried up and everybody left the game, and there was still demand for people that were either under contract or that were in the middle of a transaction or acquisition or asset management plan. The supply left, the liquidity dried up, and there were only a handful of lenders. So that debt got more expensive by 50 to 75 basis points, which really disrupted the value add market. Because you change your debt terms by 50, 75, 100 basis points, you're no longer achieving value add returns. You're now achieving what we would call core plus.
And I'm sure some people had no choice, right? Because they were in the middle. They were contracted. Yep. It would have actually probably cost them more to leave the transaction than it would to go forward.
Yeah.
So
we heard horror stories. Guys, loans being retraded. Lenders pulling out, people losing their deposit, people needing to go get just obscenely expensive debt, or Even like kind of hard money, soft money type,
Right.
where you're looking at interest rates of 10, 12%. Some people, fortunately with timing, we didn't go through the hotel conversion. It could have been nasty. We didn't end up going through that, but a lot of people, we heard some bad stories.
Well, and I think too that lenders when the pandemic first happened and things shut down pretty quickly, lenders, almost all lenders, kind of just everybody paused a little bit. I mean, everybody was trying to figure out what to do next. Now I see things are at least from the lending side are pretty back step with things. I mean, I still see, I personally own apartments too, and I have to refinance going on, and I see them more requiring a little more documentation. There's a few, but there's nothing, I didn't see any huge changes. I mean, we're just about back to where we were.
I think you're seeing that across all aspects of real estate. We did the same thing when the pandemic hit. We said, okay, we're going to focus on our current portfolio and make sure that we operate the asset that we have. I think that's what lenders did as well. They said, we're going to step back and we're just going to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
People who were looking to sell properties said, well, maybe this isn't the right time to sell. I'm just going to hold on to this. Everybody said, let's just hold on. And now that we're 6, 7, 8 months into it, we're seeing a lot more activity. More deals are coming to the market. Lenders are starting to get a little bit more active.
Right.
People like us are saying, okay, our properties are doing fine. Let's go back into acquisition mode. So I think you're seeing a slow return to normalcy.
I think it's interesting how, really since the end of February, 1st of March until now, I do think people acclimate, when we talk about the investment community, acclimate pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
really. I mean, yes, everything shut down, everybody took a pause, things, but really in just a short period of time, it's like people went, oh, okay, so here's how things are, here's what the facts are, here's what we kind of think. We built that into the pricing, whether it's delinquencies or whatever's going on there.
Yep.
And okay, so here it is, and they're just moving forward.
The world is still here,
It
and we
is.
still are moving
Yes.
forward, and we're going to
Yes.
do business, and
Yeah.
and you can't stay on the sidelines forever.
And markets are efficient. It shows
Yeah.
you the efficiency of the markets.
So if you were going to give advice to other investors, what's two things that you would say you absolutely have to know or have to do?
I'd say that's really hard to distill down to two things because there's so much to consider. But what I think a lot of real estate people that are interested in real estate investing, what a lot of them don't understand is the advantages that scale gives you. Right, a good business is one that you can scale, and real estate scales pretty well. But people get into real estate investing, and they see on TV or on the internet, flipping single family houses or buying duplexes or buying fourplexes. None of those benefit from scale, right? Your operations, your OpEx, operating expenses per door are going to be pretty high. Your vacancy factor needs to be high. If you have a single family house or a duplex and you lose a tenant, that's 50% of your
It is,
income,
or
100%
100%,
of your
depending,
income.
yeah.
And even 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like all of those, like those are really small deals to us that are really risky. So I would say with scale, you get a lot of benefits. With scale, you get the benefits of economies of scale and risk management. So I'd say that is one that maybe a lot of people won't consider when they're looking into real estate. So
I think you're right. Actually, I think maybe people think about if they buy one house that if it's vacant then, or even a duplex. But when you take it the steps further that you're talking, I don't know that they actually do think about that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think another piece of advice would be to surround yourself with a good team, to build that good team, and to rely on them. We found that since we've been working with your group, with TMG, that property operations have been great.
That's wonderful to hear.
Absolutely. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
But that goes all the way from the acquisition to the operations of the asset, is that you have to hire good people that you trust, and then in some way you have to back away and let them do their job. You hire an expert and you let that expert do their job.
I'm going to double down on the property management side of that, because property management, as you know, that is boots on the ground. That is day to day. That is managing controllable expenses. That is collecting rent. That is leasing. You need to have exceptional property management. That that will either make your asset plan sing or it will create so many challenges for you. So we have TMG manage our portfolio, and we couldn't be happier. The operations have been incredible, and we made the change, as you know, to TMG, and what a stark contrast between what not so great boots on the ground and what exceptional boots on the ground makes.
I think, and while yes, I'm going to toot our own horn here. We do a good job. We cover those details, and I personally own property too, and so you can have all the metrics or all the formulas or all the benchmarks in the world, and this property is a winner. But if it's not managed right, in 90 days, that property can be a loser.
Absolutely.
It can happen that quick.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people focus so much on yes, it has to be a good deal, yes, the financing has to line up, all these things, that is absolutely true. But if you don't have something on the back end that says somebody's going to manage to all of that, then it will fall apart pretty quickly. Thank you for all of your knowledge and insight on the market. I think it's really going to help some of our investors.
Yeah, thank you. And we welcome the viewers out there to check out our website, albion.house, and our LinkedIn and Twitter. Twitter is Albion House CRE. On our website, you'll find there's a learning section where we publish a blog, and we take a deep dive into a lot of these concepts and ideas, and a lot of the math and a lot of the fundamentals. So if you want to learn more about our thoughts and what we do, please check out our website, and we're constantly adding new content.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and we will check out that website and learn a lot about investing in real estate. Thank you again for watching.